Welcome. My name is Purnima. Poem 2, Great Grandmother, Question Answer, 5th Standard, Part 2, English First Language Part 1. It is as per 2024-2025 Karnataka State Board Syllabus. Glossary. Yellowing, discolored, getting old. White vapor turns yellow after a long period. Misted means dimmed. Stern means strict. Rank, straightforward. Recognize means understand, identify, find. Comprehension. Answer the following questions in 2 or 3 sentences each. First main, what has happened to the photograph? Why? The photograph has aged and turned yellow over time, signifying its old age. This natural fading occurs due to the effects of time, exposure, and environmental conditions. 2. What expression does the poet read in eyes of his great grandmother? The poet reads a frank and serious expression in his great grandmother's eyes. However, he also senses that her eyes have the ability to laugh, showing a balance of sternness and warmth. 3. Describe the poet's great grandmother as she appears in the photograph. Poet's great grandmother appears with her hair pulled back tightly in a bun, wearing a simple black dress without any jewelry. Her appearance reflects simplicity, strength, and a dignified presence. Fourth question. Did the poet know her personality? Why? Which line suggests this? No, the poet did not know his great grandmother personally, as she belonged to a general generation long before his time. The line that suggests this is I never knew her. 6. She looks out at me. What does this opening line of the poem mean? The opening line, she looks out at me, implies that the great grandmother's image in the photograph creates a strong personal connection with the poet. Despite the passage of time, he feels as if she is observing him directly. Sixth question. Pick out the word from the poem which means that photograph is old. The word that indicates photograph is old is yellowing. This suggests that it has aged and faded over the years. Seventh question. What were the feelings that poet experienced when he looked at the photograph of his great grandmother? The poet experiences a deep sense of connection and reflection when he looked at his great grandmother's photograph. He feels a bond with her despite never having met her and hopes that his future generations will feel the same closeness to him. Second question, second main, answer the following question. 1. Yet I recognize myself in her 3 generations later. What does the word recognize mean in this context? Yet I recognize myself in her 3 generations later, meaning of recognize in this context. The poet feels a deep connection with his great grandmother despite never having met her. He sees traces of himself in her, perhaps in physical feature, expressions, or qualities that have been passed down through generations. B. Explain the term 3 generations. Explanation of 3 generations. This phrase refers to the passage of time between the poet and his great grandmother. The poet is 3 generations removed from her, meaning she lived long before him, possibly as his ancestor's grandmother. 2. What feelings, thoughts run in the poet's mind as he looks at photograph of his great grandmother? Feelings and thoughts in the poet's mind as the poet looks at the photograph of his great grandmother. He experiences a mix of admiration, curiosity, and nostalgia. He feels a strong connection despite a time gap and wonders about her life, personality, and experiences. There's also a sense of reflection as he hopes that his own future descendants will feel just as close to him. So, what picture do you get about the great grandmother of the poet? The picture of the poet's great grandmother. The poet's great grandmother is depicted as a strong and dignified woman with serious and thoughtful expression. Her hair is neatly pulled back into a bun, and she wears a simple black dress without any jewelry, symbolizing simplicity and resilience. Despite her stern look, her eyes hold the potential for laughter, suggesting warmth and depth to her personality. Third main appreciation. 1. Which line in the poem do you like? Say why. One of the most striking lines in the poem is that I recognize myself in her 3 generations later. This line beautifully conveys the idea that traits, values, and emotions transcend time, connecting family members across generations. It emphasizes the poet's deep sense of belonging and continuity, reminding us that our ancestors live on in us in a ways we may not even realize. To attempt a description of your mother and grandmother or great grandmother. The description of my mother, grandmother, or great grandmother. She stands tall not just in a height but in presence. Her gaze is steady, carrying, carrying stories I will never fully know. Her hands, worn yet graceful, have built a life with a quiet resilience. Silver strands waves through her hair like threads of wisdom, each one earned. She speaks with a quiet authority, never needing to raise her voice to be heard. When she smiles, it is rare but profound, like sunlight breaking through the clouds after a storm. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and save the playlist. Thank you very much. Bye bye.